Right, so we're going to look at editing a bleed area and creating columns after a document has been already set up, already created. Right, so first of all, let's see the whole document. So just come to the hand tool, just see the whole page. So I'm just going to double click on this hand here. Then I can see the whole page. As you can see, this is in preview mode. This is a preview mode here. And if I click on here, go back to normal mode. So you can see in normal mode, we can see all the different lines and markings and guides where everything is. But one thing we can't see is a bleed line, a bleed area. So essentially a bleed line would be anywhere from the edge of this document forward. It's basically an area where you can place an object from one bleed line to another. So when the document is finally edited, when it's cut, the image would be edge to edge. Whereas if you just had an image from this edge of the document to that edge of the document, when it comes to being edited, the final edit, when it's printed, you might find you have a little bit of a white edge. So what we want to know is, how do we create a bleed area if we've forgotten to add it in when we created a document? Well, we come up to File and Document Setup. So it's File, Document Setup, and you can also see the shortcut there. So I'm just going to click on that. And the first thing you can see here is bleed and slug. And note that I've got my preview ticked. So make sure your preview is ticked. And so let's deal with the bleed area first. You can see at the moment the bleed is 0. So you're wondering what bleed looks like. I'm just going to put 3 in here. Typical bleed area is 3, but different printers vary. So I'm just going to click away. And immediately you should see a little red line going all the way around. So this is a bleed area. So essentially, if you wanted to have an image which went edge to edge, your image would go over this area where the white is, into this area here, right up to the bleed line. So when it comes to being cut, once for final printing, you would have the area of the picture right on the edge. You wouldn't have any little gaps or anything. So we've set up our bleed area there, and you can see it's a red line all around the document. And if you're wondering about slug, a slug would just be an area that you set up if you wanted to leave a message for somebody who's working on the document with you. You could write a little message in a slug. You could create a slug area. So I know you're curious, so let's put a number in there and we'll see what the slug looks like. And you see with the slug, just writing a rough, just throwing some numbers in. So you can see I've got my slug area there. So I could decide, let's say I wanted a really big slug area, just so you can see it properly. You can see a slug is much bigger there. So I could write notes within that area and I know it wouldn't get printed because it's well outside the print area. So that was just to demonstrate the slug line. But we're not going to have a slug. So I'm just going to change it back to 0. So we looked at creating a bleed area, had a quick look at what a slug is. So if we're happy with the settings, we've got a bleed line. We're happy with all of that. We just click OK. And now we've got our bleed area. So we can be sure that when we print something and send it off, we can be sure that it isn't going to be a white space where we want edge to edge printing. And if we want to preview it, I could either come over to here and click preview, or I could press W on my keyboard. So as you can see with preview, you're just seeing how it would look once it's printed, without any guides or bleed lines. So what if I want to change my columns? So as you can see, I've got 4 columns here at the moment. Well, if I just want to change the columns on this page, I click on the page, make sure I'm in properties. Once I'm in properties here, and if yours is not showing, it's just Windows and properties, and you can find properties there. So on properties, and I come down to edit page. Now bear in mind, when I edit the page, it's just going to edit this page. So I'm going to choose edit page, columns and margins. I'm just going to choose this here. And you can see at the moment I've got 4 columns on this page. In fact, there's 4 columns on every page in this document, all 6 pages. But let's say I increase it to 8. You can see now I've got 8 columns on this page, and I can click OK, and I've got my 8 columns. But if I go to the next page, you can see there's 4 columns on each page. Or but if I demonstrate it on the last page, you'll see there's 4 columns. On the first page there's 8. Now if I wanted to do that for particular pages, I could come to here where it says page 1. So if I wanted 4 columns on page 3, again I could go edit page, margins and columns, and I could edit that page. But imagine if I wanted it on all of my pages. Now I've only got 6 pages here, but if you're creating a magazine, for example, you might have 20, 30, 40, 50 pages. So another way of doing it is when I go to, if I just go back to beginning. Right, so when I go to edit page, before I click edit page, I can choose what page I want. But if you notice here, they're all A parent. So if I've got 50 documents and they're all A parent, and I want them to have 8 columns on each one, I can just choose A parent, and then I can choose edit page. Then I can go to margins and columns, and then I can increase the columns on every page. Now I've got 8 columns on every page, on every A parent page. So I click OK. So if I go to page 4 and 5, go to the last page, or if I just go back, if I double click the last page, you can see it got 8 columns. Each page now has 8 columns. So that's how you can add or take away as many columns as you want after you've created the document.